I want to have a serious discussion. One that's probably going to make us all a little uncomfortable at times, but it's something that's really important to me, so I hope you'll help me out with this. If you've read my story on my website prior to the meeting, or in the flyers I've handed out, you know the story about Jenny and her little brother, Lenny. Lenny's in the ICU with a bloodstream infection. He's on life support, and the doctor wants Jenny to make a decision whether to pull the plug or not. And she calls me sobbing, asking, what should I do? The advice I gave her that day was very simple and general, was, Jenny, this is your decision. It's one that you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life. So don't let the doctors pressure you into a decision, and take as long as you need to make this decision. A couple days later, Lenny had a moment of lucidity and was able to converse a little bit and said, I'm done with all of this pain. I don't want to live my life like this. Please let me die. And a couple days later, he died. Why should we discuss end-of-life issues? I'm going to give you 3 important reasons. The first is that advanced medical technology these days can keep someone alive for months or even years, despite the fact there may be little or no hope of them making a recovery. They found out in studies that having these discussions ahead of time actually reduces fear and anxiety at time of death. But more important than this is that it reduces stress, confusion, and resentment among the survivors, which is usually close family. This is my Uncle Dan. And this is me just a few years ago, riding on the back of his Harley. Earlier this year, my Uncle Dan went to the hospital with a bloodstream infection, exactly the same condition that Lenny had. And it's a serious condition. He was in and out of the ICU, either intubated or very groggy, unable to have any real conversations. His only surviving immediate family was his sister, and my mom is technically his cousin. They had no idea what he wanted. He was very private. He never had these discussions. Fortunately for my Uncle Dan, one day he had a moment of lucidity, and he said, I can't take the pain. Please let me die. And a couple of days later, he died. Now Lenny, my Uncle Dan, and our families were given this gift of grace, albeit at the midnight hour. So in order to have this discussion, how do we take these wishes that we have for how we picture our end of life and make them a reality? And that's through an advance directive. And I'm going to talk about advance directives in Hawaii, because they're a little different in every state. In Hawaii, an advance directive has 2 major parts, a living will and a power of attorney. The living will basically specifies your healthcare wishes that you want in the event that you're no longer being able to make those decisions. Your healthcare proxy, or your power of attorney, is appointing someone to make legal healthcare decisions for you in the event you are unable to make your own decisions. Now, this person should obviously know your wishes, but you can't cover everything that the future has in hold. So this person is going to fill in the gaps and make decisions when you can't, along the lines of what you would have wanted. Now, with these documents, there's a lot of controversy and myth surrounding, so we are going to bust a few myths right here. The first is this: advance directives are only for the elderly. This is not true. Everyone 18 years or older should have an advance directive. Some of the people in the room that are more my age probably remember some of the dramatic right-to-die cases, such as Terri Schiavo. This was a 26-year-old girl that suffered a massive coronary event, leaving her in a vegetative state. And despite the fact that her husband knew what her wishes were, the parents didn't agree and took him to court and got a court order to leave a feeding tube in. that kept her alive year after year, until finally the husband, through court process, was able to win. 15 years later, Terri Schiavo was kept alive until they took the feeding tube out and she was allowed to have a natural death. Terri Schiavo was not given the gift of grace. And when you think about the physical pain, not that only that she went through, but the physical pain, the emotional pain, and probably financial pain that the husband and family went through, and it was all avoidable. But it's probably thanks to Terri Schiavo and other people that we have these options of advance directives today. Another myth: I should wait until I'm sure about what I want before signing something as important as an advance directive, right? Well, this is also not true. Because an advance directive is really a process, and things are going to change. Your health is going to change, health technology is going to change, and your views of end of life are going to change. Do you want to be on a ventilator for a couple of years? Have you even thought about that before? So an advance directive is a process, and you need to get it started as soon as possible. When I name a healthcare proxy, I'm giving up my right to make decisions. This is not true either, because a health directive only comes into effect once you're not able to make decisions anymore. You're basically making those decisions and communicating them up front in the event that you're not going to be able to make these later. If you go into the hospital with the ability to make decisions, you can ask for treatments against your healthcare directive, you can change your healthcare directive, you can change your proxy. You can make changes in any of these areas up until the point where you become so sick or injured that you can no longer decide for yourself. So how do we actually do this? Now that we discussed why we need to do this, how do we do it? I'm going to give you 4 ways that are pretty simple for everyone in this room, if you don't already have one, to come up with a health directive. The first is, and this is by far the best, this is one-stop shopping, and this is the one I recommend. Go to a workshop at Wilcox Hospital. It's free, and it's led by a doctor. And at that workshop, you're going to use these cards. It's called Go Wish. And these cards have a number of healthcare wishes on them. For example, not being connected to machines, maintain my dignity, to be free from pain, to have family with me when I die. And there's 36 of these cards. You'll spread them out, and you'll figure out what's important to you and what's not so important to you. And then you can just take the texts on these cards and write them right into your healthcare directive. They're going to take that, and the notary is going to notarize it on the spot. They're going to make copies, and they're going to put it into your file in your health records at Wilcox, and you'll be done. And it's a free event, and there's free food. Terri did this to complete her advance directive recently, and then she told me all about it and how excited she was about this class. I didn't go that route. What I did was your second option. Oh, and by the way, the next 2 classes are in September and November, and they'll have more next year. I took this option. I went online and I bought the Go Wish cards myself. They're $25 for 2 sets. And I went home and I went through the exercise myself. I took the cards out, I laid them out, what is important to me. And some of the cards, I just took the text and wrote them directly into my advance directive, and some of them were just stepping stones into bigger thoughts and bigger conversations I had with myself. This is my advance directive that I've completed recently. And these are my wishes that I came up with from coming up with the cards. Mine is a little different. It covers conditions of Alzheimer's because my dad died of Alzheimer's, and I'm probably predisposed to dementia or some form of dementia. So I cover that in my wishes and what I would like if I would have serious Alzheimer's. And then, of course, I got it notarized. And you don't have to go to the class to get it notarized. Anyone in the public can go to Wilcox Hospital and get this notarized for free. and then you just walk down the hall to medical records, give it to them, they'll make a copy, and they'll put it in the record for you. It's very easy. It took me about 2 hours to decide on the text in my document and about a half an hour to get it notarized and have it into my medical record. The other option is called the Conversation Starter Kit, and it's basically a series of open-ended questions and also health wishes rated from 1 to 5. And you kind of finish this up, and then you take that information and you write that into your health care directive. The last option, which is a nice option as well, is called 5 Wishes. And it's actually an advanced directive that's nationally accepted. And it goes through these 5 wishes of what you would want, but they're all little ticks, like you could check off, I want this, or cross out, I don't want that. And when you're done, you just have that notarized and submit that to medical records, and it's recognized. So there's 4 ways that everyone in this room can get started, all of them pretty easy. I'm going to give you a few tips though. The first tip is go through this process yourself. Have the conversation with yourself. Come up with your own advanced directive before you try to do this with someone else. It's going to give you great insights into the questions and the process. My last tip is this. This box, you probably can't read it, says the Go Wish game. And I thought this would be fun to bring home in June when I was going to talk to my mom after my Uncle Danny's death. And I said, Mom, let's play a game. And by the time she figured out what was going on, this wasn't a game, she felt a bit deceived, and it put her off to the whole process. So use an honest statement. Give someone a warning shot, like the one I gave at the beginning of my speech. I want to have a serious conversation. It's probably going to make us uncomfortable, but it's really important for me, so I'd like you to help me out. This is going to better prepare them for the conversation that follows. All this information, plus a lot more, is going to be on the post-communication website that I'm supposed to develop. And I will send out an email with that link after the meeting. On that website, you have a link to buy the Go Wish cards or to buy the 5 Wishes form, which is only $5, which is a great deal. You can register with the link. It jumps you right to the Wilcox registration page for their classes. It would also download any of the needed forms, the advanced directive form, there's a couple other forms on there and some more details that I couldn't cover in this speech today. As well, it has information on the free notary, who to contact to get that free notary at Wilcox if you're interested in doing that for your advanced directive. Finally, there's a lot of other details and links to PDF that have a lot more information, especially if you're not in the medical field, tell you about the breathing machines and dialysis and all these other options that you can think about if you wish to. It will live on this site until my personal site is back up and running. I will move it and I will let everyone know that it's moved so that I can just keep it there permanently if you ever need it in the future. I want you to seriously consider giving this gift of grace to yourself and giving this gift of grace to your loved ones. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark.